All right, and we're back. Gelgate. I'm calling it Gelgate because anything that's controversial, that's a scandal of some kind, that alludes to a potential conspiracy gets gate thrown at the end of it. And like, I don't know, it's smooth. Gelgate. Basically what's going on here is this. There is a company called Spring Energy, sort of this boutique energy company based in San Francisco that's had a pretty meteoric rise in the last couple of years. It's still quite small in the grand scheme of things. It's no Goo or Morton or whatever. Their whole conceit, though, is that they are producing gels that are easier on your tummy, don't cause GI issues, and they're all natural. It's whole food based, and that somehow with some of their products they've jammed in a huge amount of carbohydrates and overall calories into a very small pouch, a very small serving size. So that it got everyone excited, particularly, Katelyn, ultra runners. Because when you think about running like 100K, 100 miles, your nutrition plan becomes like a make or break thing. It's a big part of the performance. Certainly with marathon runners as well. I mean, we've seen the rise of Morton in the last 6 or 7 years. And that was around this idea that if you get your fueling right, you're going to have a great deal of success. So what happened here was this. The last couple of months, particularly on Reddit, but other social media platforms as well, ultra runners in particular started murmuring about this one particular gel called AwesomeSauce, which I think is a really stupid name, but whatever. AwesomeSauce, that these kind of like up and coming influencer, coach, celebrities, this husband and wife couple had been pushing pretty heavily, and other people like Sage Canaday, who's kind of a known ultra influencer athlete guy. He's sponsored by Spring as well, so he was pushing this product. And a lot of people started buying it because it claimed to have 180 calories per gel and 45 grams as well, which is a lot, right? And so ultra runners started using it, but many started reporting like they just didn't feel good. They were bonking really hard in races, falling apart, and they would have an empty feeling even after consuming like multiple gels. They just didn't feel like they were working. So some runners started investigating this, started experimenting, started doing little like ad hoc home lab tests. And there was like rumors floating around that the gels weren't all that they were marketing themselves as being. So in comes this notable coach and podcaster. He's pretty prominent on Instagram in particular, named Jason Koop, this American guy, who's like a very like science-based, no bullshit guy, right? So he comes in, he's like, I think he sort of smelled a rat and was suspicious in the onset from what the vibe he's given off in the reels is like that he put out the last couple of days suggests that he'd sort of like thought there's something was up with this product all along.
Spring's AwesomeSauce is not all that it is cracked up to be, and I am pissed.
So he sent off a whole bunch of the gels to an independent third-party lab in Washington to have them analyzed for their nutritional content, just as you would if you own the company, right? Like you're just like, I need to know on the whole sort of what the numbers are for my product. Sent it off, got the results back, put out a string of reels on Instagram that unpack this whole fiasco. Turns out they have less than half the carbohydrate and overall calorie count than what they're advertising. It was 75 calories and 18 carbs. That's in contrast to 180 and 45. I mean, it's a massive difference, right?
Yeah, it's nothing.
And then he excoriated the brand and also this husband and wife coaching team, Megan and David Roche, who run a private coaching company called Swap Adventure Team, kind of a weird name. And they've really risen in the last couple of years. They've got quite a few known athletes in their orbit, like people like John Kelly, the guy who finished the Barkley marathons a few times now, is kind of like a bit of an ultra legend in certain circles. I mean, that's somebody you really want kind of fronting what you're doing because, you know, he's the guy who can survive doing the Barkley multiple times. And they've got also this kind of like super positive vibes thing going on with what they do. And I think that Koop sort of felt like this couple really got behind this gel. They really pumped it at first. They kind of insinuated that they were behind developing the gel or the concept of the gel. And now subsequently what's happening is this couple is sort of taking a step back and they're saying, oh, we were never formally involved with this. We never really developed this. And in fact, we never even actually took the gel. We never used the gel ourselves, and their athletes don't use the gel. So it's kind of like trying to wash your hands of this whole scenario. But what's happening now is the company Spring Energy released a statement basically saying kind of two things at the same time. They're saying the gels in question that were tested may have been part of a lot or a group of gels that maybe had some QA issues or were inconsistent in some way, and that might explain it. And then
Like
they
a
also
bad
sort
batch.
of the bad batch.
Yeah, the bad batch.
The batch with the less stuff in it. And the second thing they said is like that they think that maybe they're going to revisit their formulas. So it's kind of like this was just a one-off bad batch / maybe we should look at how we're making things. So I think, guys, this is a bigger story than beyond just like some gels that were not what they claimed they were. I think that this is a bigger issue in the sport when you think about a product making a claim and then not delivering on that claim. I mean, that's fraudulent. That's libel. That's very dangerous to do. Like, think about when you're wearing a pair of like running shoes. A pair of super shoes is an example. You know, if a company comes out with a pair of $400 super shoes that they claim are going to give you like a 4% benefit, and everyone's running in them, and everyone's saying like, I'm not running a PR. I felt like crap in the second half of the race. I don't know what's going on with this shoe. I mean, and then if you were to discover like, well, actually it's bad science and the claims are completely bunk. I mean, that would be a really big issue, right? So there's that. And then there's also something else going on. And I wanted to pick your brains about this. There's obviously something going on between Koop and his sort of like his vibe, his sort of public facing running personality, and the Roches, Sage Canaday, people like that. There seems to be like is there a running influencer civil war brewing here?
Maybe, I don't know.
You know what I mean? Like I think there's like a lot of influencers, and we were talking about this in the previous segment, Alex, about in running how there's this real reluctance to have an opinion and to sort of avoid controversy and to skirt any sort of conflict or negative vibes and to keep things like kind of positive to a degree that's like fake positive at times. And I get this vibe from kind of the one camp here with the Spring Energy folks, with the Roches as coaches and as people. And then I get the sense that this guy Koop is sort of like calling bullshit on all this and just being a little bit like, you know, if you're going to pump up a product, you got to own the product, and also don't hide behind everything being like just good times all the time.
I've been noticing a movement, not just recently, but in, say, the last 5-10 years, inside of running that depicts running as an inclusive thing, a fun thing, something that you do essentially to build community. I'm not disparaging that. I think finding hobbies to build community is a good thing. The issue, I think, is when someone jumps into running with only that in mind and doesn't take into account the fact that, like, also, if you start running and training, this is a very hard thing that you're doing. And you need to lean into the hardness of it to really, well, this is where my opinion falls. And this is the best way to do it is to challenge that hard part. But whether or not, if you challenge the hard part, you need to understand that there's a science that goes to it. I know there's a gentleman right now who's running through Canada. He's running across Canada.
Okay.
And it's an incredible feat, right? It's a Terry Fox-esque thing. He actually just passed the point where Terry Fox unfortunately stopped, Thunder Bay. He's something like 40 or 50 days in, and he's running 75 kilometers every day.
Wow.
Now, that's an incredible feat. But also, I would like him to publicize more what he does on the daily to make sure that he can keep doing that. Because he's not running across Canada on vibes alone.
Yeah.
And you can't run an ultra on vibes alone. And you shouldn't finish a marathon on vibes alone. If you're doing it for the fun, for the community, for the stunts, that's cool. But you also need to back it up because this is hard stuff. So, I don't know. I don't do ultras. I think that if I were to do ultras, I would hope that I would inform myself and get the right gels, but also maybe not. Why would I know that this, what's it called? I forget.
Awesome
Sauce.
sauce.
How could I forget that?
Come
I
on,
would know
Alex.
that awesome sauce isn't good. I think it's irresponsible on their part. And at worst, my most pessimistic take is that they were preying on this idea of we're just running for fun. We're trying to build community and we're going to buy whatever's out there because it's likely safe. And a lot of people suffered for it. So yeah, I think that's awful.
Katelyn, do you run your ultras on vibes? Is it
I
all
do not.
vibes?
I do not. It's not vibes. And I think I've mentioned in one of the previous podcasts, like that, like our running club saying is run for fun. However, I'm very competitive. I know that maybe earlier in my running career, I'd say, oh no, I'm not that competitive. I just like to have fun. And I do like to have fun, but I am very competitive. And there's a huge part to that as well. And yeah, whenever I've also been approached, I feel like when you're approached with a product or people want help with a product, I've always been really upfront with any of the brands. And I've said, I need to try it first. I need to use it for a few months. I need to use it in a race. And then I'll let you know if it's something that I can help you out with. And that's always been kind of like the rule with me. I've never, someone's, come up to me and say, well, can you use this? And can you post about this? And well, I can't unless I try it out. Unless I see if I really like it. And if I really like it and it's working for me, I'd be happy to help you out, like in any way that I can. But I'm a really firm believer in, like what Alex is saying, you're not just going to put your faith in something because it says that it works. You've got to make sure it works for you and be 100% sure that it works for you. And then, and then stand behind that product. At least that's the way that I've always kind of approached those situations.
And what do you guys think about like an influencer's responsibility to their followers, to their community, to the running community at large? Like if you're an influencer / athlete and you're approached by the good people at Spring Energy to front their product and they send you a bunch of free product, of course, and maybe they pay you some money and there's a contract where you have to go and promote the brand and talk about it and do a YouTube video and whatever. But what if that product is subpar? Or what if you don't really use the product that much because you kind of know it's not really that great, but you still front it because you're getting paid some money or because you want to be a quote unquote sponsored athlete, which I think is going on here a lot in certain quarters of running. It's definitely in the ultra trail world, like where there's like this desire to be sponsored in some way, even if sponsored means you're not actually getting paid any cash. What's the responsibility of an influencer in that regard, especially when you come into the situation where it's like scientifically verified that at least some of this product is just fake or phony or subpar? Like, is it on Sage Canada because he was going around saying everyone should be taking AwesomeSauce? It's awesome. And then it's like, well, it's actually not that awesome, Sage. And is he allowed to retract and say like, hey, just an athlete, I don't have any responsibility to what's actually in this stuff, Don't shoot the messenger.
I think he can claim to not know. I mean, why would he know? They don't take athletes through the lab and show them how it's made necessarily.
But they do.
Did they?
They did. So if you go, I don't know if it's still up there, But if you go to the Spring Energy homepage, they have this video with like literally all of their influencers and athletes getting a tour of the production facility. So they do.
Were they lied to?
But they were perhaps lied to.
though?
Either lied to or perhaps, like, in fairness to Spring Energy, maybe their just quality assurance was non-existent. And they were just like, at the beginning we did some rough math and we were jamming all these different fruits and whatever into this paste, into this sauce. And the basic math suggested it was this many calories. And we never tested it after that. Or we don't do spot testing, so... But yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
I have a hard time. Yeah, I have a hard time thinking that there was a moment when Spring Energy came to Sage Canada and said, "Hey, listen, by the way, this thing is bullshit." Like, I don't think that would happen. Because why would he? Why would he use it then?
Yeah,
that totally didn't happen. I don't think. To your question, I think there's only one way to do it. I think now that we're 10 years into this influencer movement, we've had influencers for 10 years now. People are understanding. And their viewers, not influencers, but viewers are becoming good at pinpointing which influencers are only in it for the money, because they'll likely rep a bunch of weird stuff and a lot of it, a quantity of stuff. And then eventually these influencers fall by the wayside. I've met a few influencers and I'm starting to realize the good ones actually believe in the product that they're talking about, because that will ensure their longevity too. It's also good for them in the long term to only advertise products that they believe in. So if they're worth their salt and they know what they're doing, they're not going to peddle crap. But some influencers do, because they haven't figured that out yet.
So if you see an influencer that like kind of looks like a NASCAR, it's just, the person's got like their Instagram profile is like 30 different shitty products.
It's a red flag.
Question mark. Last thought I have on this, Katelyn, before we move on to the next topic is, do you think that, because you're deeply entrenched in the ultra trail world, do you think that there's a little bit of an existential crisis going on right now in the ultra trail world that might be kind of percolating or sort of forcing an issue like this, where there are a lot of athletes who really want this to be their profession and they want it to be professionalized, and they see these sorts of brands and any sort of sponsorship, even if it's like a no money sponsorship, is at least kind of creating this sense that they're being taken seriously and that it's a professional realm. Is that an issue that's going on right now in the ultra trail community?
Yeah, I kind of only thought it was an issue down where but now listening to this, I'm feeling like it's happening all over. Because I do see it here as well with the ultra runners that we have here in Costa Rica or, in Central America. And now I guess we're seeing it all over. But yeah, I kind of feel like maybe the athletes will feel as though they're being taken a little more seriously. And to be honest, at least here, you can't be an ultra trail athlete and that be your job 100%. I mean, I don't know anyone where I am who's getting paid to be an ultra athlete. And I think that maybe that's the goal. I mean, it would be awesome if there were also ultra trail athletes who were paid athletes like other athletes around the world in different disciplines. But I feel like we're not quite there yet. So perhaps people are taking on those sponsorships because it makes them seem more professional. And of course, I mean, every little bit helps. If you have someone that is taking care of your running shoes and your clothes and your nutrition and your hydration and your gym membership and your coach and that's a lot of money that you'll save per month if you don't have to pay that. But I just do always feel like I'm always going to say, I just hope that people who are using the products really stand by the products, and they're using the products because they want to and because they think that it's something that's going to benefit other runners and that it works for them. But yeah, I absolutely do see that's something that's going on for sure.
All right, we'll leave it at that for now. I feel like that this is also a subject that is not yet seen its full resolution. And I believe our colleague Jesse, our news editor, is going to be speaking with Jason Koop on Friday. So tomorrow, we're recording this on Thursday afternoon. She's going to be speaking with Jason Koop, and we'll make sure that we either slot that into a upcoming episode of the podcast or just get it out there on the site right away. We'll probably do both. So, all right. And this is like a little tease for a future pod idea, guys, but I kind of want to get into talking about why we hate to love and love to hate influencers, but we'll leave that for another day. It's a whole subject. That's like 15 minutes right there. So we'll pause it for now and we'll revisit that at a later time. Okay. We'll take one more break. And then after that, we'll pick Katelyn's brain about all things heat. Be right back.